I wanted to like fly through explosions and film car chases.
What is the craziest shot that you've ever done?
The most stressful experience that I had was on Deadpool 2. It was just me and Ryan Reynolds. He insisted on it being him even though he's wearing the mask. They lit up like 6 city blocks for the shot.
Oh my god, I know about that.
And then they set off the biggest explosion that I've ever seen.
You're like a freaking sniper, bro.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best drone to start with right now?
The best thing that you can do is get into FPV. Nobody's going to give you a job because you went to film school. Drone flying is not just delivering good shots. And it's so hard to keep that thing in the sky. You're going to crash it like instantly.
You should be an amazing gamer. Like the things that
do what you love and the money will follow. I like the pressure of, hey, everybody's counting on you to get this shot and it's going to be the opening shot of the movie.
Welcome to the Bad Decisions podcast, where we get you a backstage pass into the minds of creatives, entrepreneurs, and visionaries from all domains.
And today we're turning to the world of drone cinematography, everybody. If you guys have been following us, you probably already noticed that a couple of weeks ago, me and Farhad purchased our very first drone. And we've gone ham into the world of drone piloting ever since. We use it mostly for nerves and photogrammetry, but there's just so many more use cases, especially in the film and cinema. Now, me and Farhad are beginners, right?
Yeah.
You can agree to that. But we wanted to bring on an expert to the podcast to talk to us and you guys about everything that is going on in this world specifically. We have so many questions. And so the expert today has to be the best of the best. And so we brought the heavy lift drone pilot and UAV aerial cinematographer who's worked on movies such as Deadpool 2, Sonic, Ghostbusters, and so much more. Working with the smallest of drones to the big boys like the Alta, this guy has literally the dream job of every kid around. Everybody, please welcome Patrick.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me on here, you guys. Yeah, that's a really kind intro. And I really have just been kind of playing like the big kid life my whole adult life. So thanks a lot for that.
That's super exciting, man. We were just talking with Patrick about how cool of uncle he is, because everybody will have access to all the drone that he has and, you know, all the cool shot that he takes. It's crazy.
Yeah, how does it feel? Because you said, so you have a baby yourself and you say you're an uncle as well. Mm-hmm. How does it feel when you have kids around, when they see you work on your craft, the drones? Do they get super excited, to get all pumped up and crazy about what you do?
You know, it's weird. Not so much. It's kind of like, it's one of those things I've just known them since, like, I have like a 1-year-old at home, but with my nieces, I've known them since obviously they were born. And it's just sort of what Uncle Pat does for a living. I don't think they like fully kind of get it. They did come see me like one time when they were really young on set, and it did kind of blew them away. It's a little bit of a different job, you know, but it's just family time with them. You know, and my brother's into flying drones as a hobby, so it's just kind of the same thing. It's like more of that for them. They're not like super into it, but I don't know. We'll see.
I'm sure, well, maybe just for them, but I'm sure as my own experience as a kid, if I would have seen what you do based on what I've seen on Instagram, it really is a cool craft that you're into. And what's crazy is that this craft of piloting drones is only becoming bigger and bigger as more use cases are popping out about it. But before we get into the nitty-gritty and technicalities of everything that you do today, I want to take it back because we saw this video on your Instagram and you like to play around with different sounds on your videos. And one of them specifically was you on top of a truck. And the truck was going full speed. You're flying the drone, and there's wind hitting your face. Your face is all stretched out, and you have this backpack on with the glasses. And it definitely is not an easy situation to be in. But then the camera is panning to the screen, and you have the smoothest drone shot that you're taking with all those conditions. And what it's saying on the song that you specifically chose, it says, when someone makes something look simple, that's because they put a lot of fucking hard work into it. And so we gotta go all the way back.
We want to hear about the hard work. Like, where did you get started with all of this?
How did it all begin?
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, those top-down shots are like, they're one of the harder things to do. It's just sort of a gimbal thing. And I think it's something that people don't really understand coming from like Mavic flying where you're single op, because that's one of the easier things to do when you're single opping is that. But when you're trying to double op, it's actually really difficult to like hold a perfect overhead frame. Because there's just two people trying to do one thing that's actually kind of hard. So Yeah.
So when you say, just to clarify for anybody who's not a drone expert, when you're saying double up, that means you're piloting the drone and somebody else is operating the camera at the same time.
Yeah. So,
or are you operating both?
Yeah. So I pretty much exclusively, just pilot the drone, and I have another person who works with me who operates the camera, and then I actually have a third person who works with me as well. That's my tech. That's kind of running behind the scenes, fixing anything that's broken, or charging all the batteries, or getting ready for the next shot, moving half of our stuff over to the next thing, and so it's a 3-person team to make it happen. But yeah, in this instance, it's if when you fly a Mavic, you're single op, so you're doing the camera and the video at the same time, and you're controlling everything. And it's almost easier to do certain shots that way, and top down is definitely one of them. Where it's easier to just kind of perfectly track from that because your gimbal's locked into what the drone is doing. But for me, it's like not locked in because they have their own. The camera has its own direction. So if I start veering slightly offline, I don't really know until it's too late. So that's why that one is like, yeah, it's kind of a trickier one to do. But it's one of those ones that's really annoying because everybody thinks it's kind of easy, and it is. But yeah,
and everybody asks for that, right? Like, can we have 10 of these shots?
Like, I can do that with my DJI Mini Pro 3. It's like, wait, so okay, sorry. Before we even get to the journey, because this is so crazy cool. How do you guys even communicate? This seems like a co-op game, but you gotta be super close with your partner in the sense that your brains have to work in the same way, so you both get to understand each other. It's like we used to play Gears of War back in the day together, and you gotta have that really good
dynamic
chemistry, to be able to work together. How do you guys achieve that chemistry when you're working? Because you might just have that one shot, right? That one chance to take the shot. And how do you guys communicate with each other in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's all about headsets. If I don't have my headset with me on set, then I feel like I'm just totally lost. I feel really like out of touch with everything. What usually happens is when we're on set and we're getting close and we know, okay, like things are going to happen. We go with headsets on. And once you go headsets on, it just kind of eliminates all the other chatter, and only our team becomes like what's important. And yeah, like that narrows down your focus. So it's really, I find it really important. Even if you're standing right next to the person, you can hear them perfectly fine. It's different when you have your headset on, because you just you just tune in very specifically to what they're saying, like to what the other person's saying. And as you work more and more with the same person, which I only work with like 2 or 3 different camera operators, and usually like the same guy all the time, Tommy Douglas, and over the years, he starts to kind of just understand the minutia and the language of, maybe I just hesitate a little long to answer something, and he's okay, like maybe we can make it more like this, or, like, and we're both kind of constantly trying to figure out how we can help each other. So to give you an instance for that, like yesterday I was flying off of a boat, and we were filming a sailboat out in the open ocean. And the shot was like rushing up to the sailboat and then kind of wrapping around the back, and focusing on a person on the back. And in order to like, nail that, like if you want to make that shot perfect, without a kink in the lens or like part of the shot that doesn't work, and you want the whole thing to work, then it relies on, I can't just go the same speed and then stop right at the end. Because as you get closer to the subject, he's got to pan quicker to make it happen. And then there's a point when that just becomes too much. So as we're going, it's a constant back and forth dialogue about like, okay, and okay, yeah, no, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to help you out. And like, I know where he is going to have a hard time, and he knows where I'm going to have a hard time. And we're always kind of trying to make each other's lives a little easier by, making the shot just easier for each other.
Wow, that's a crazy teamwork.
Yeah,
that's a crazy teamwork. Wow.
It's I cannot imagine how long it takes to develop that sort of chemistry with somebody, but I imagine it takes a lot of work, and as you said, it comes through a lot of hard work. So again, there's so many things I want to ask here, but I want to take it back first and just talk about where you got started, because we've already met once in person, by the way, for everybody watching, and you told us that you started as a camera operator. So maybe we can go back to that, how you started over there, what maybe you studied. Did you have this in mind your whole life? Was this something you planned out to become, or did it just all roll out on its own?
You know, I was about 18 years old. Still didn't have a clue about what I wanted to do. So I moved to Whistler and just went snowboarding for a year. Cleared my head, thought about everything, and just realized that the only thing I actually enjoyed doing was filming, like snowboarding and stuff. So I made the decision to go to school, because it was either go to school or just like work in a kitchen at Earl's in Whistler for the rest of my life. And so I went to a school that doesn't exist anymore called the Art Institute of Vancouver, and spent 2 years, just like a 2-year intensive program all the way through the summer, working on that, where we got to do, it was one of the different schools at the time. So at the time, like VFS and the other big film schools weren't doing the whole like spread shot approach where you learn everything. It was more like you would choose your specialty within it and then go towards that. So you'd learn about lighting, or you'd learn about camera or whatever. But in my school, it was very much like the way it is now, of like camera editing, compositing. You know, we learned After Effects, we learned sound, we learned audio design, we learned, you know, all of the aspects of film, to be this kind of like, you know, new age shooter. And that would have been probably about 15 years ago now. And yeah, it just, you know, it was a good program to take in retrospect. But I think when I graduated, I was like, hey, why did I waste all this money? I could have just bought a bunch of film gear instead. But looking back at it now, you know, where I've landed in my career, it's weird because all of a sudden I need to crack open After Effects for some reason. And I know my way around, you know. I might not be like the best After Effects compositor out there, but like I know what I'm doing, sort of. And I can't say the same for like any of my colleagues who didn't have this kind of program that they were built on. They know one thing, and that's what they do. And it's really handy to have that like overall spread shot approach. So I would say that was pretty helpful. But the last time there was a writer's strike actually was like I graduated film school. Like it was right in 2008. I think it was a writer's strike, or it was either writers or one of the big unions went on strike.
We're in the middle of another one right now.
Yeah. Your second one. You're an experienced
strike survivor. But yeah, no, I didn't have you know, any work. So coming out of film school, it's like I realized really fast too, like the other thing you have to, you know, understand about film school is that nobody's going to give you a job because you went to film school. That's like nobody cares. It does not get you a job like it does in other industries. You are not going to just walk into a job because you have that credential. So, you know, I learned that pretty quickly. I moved up to the Yukon and started doing like mining videos, just doing like corporate videos, getting my hands on like anything I could. Because up there's, you know, like it's a smaller pond. You're a bigger fish because you kind of know something about the industry and about how to make good videos like really cheaply. So I got into that up there, which led into there was a TV show called Gold Rush that had just moved up to the Yukon, and you know, that was my opportunity to get on that show, because I would show them like, hey, look, this is what I've been doing. I've already been filming mining. I already know this side of the, you know, industry. Plus I'm like, you know, qualified with my school and whatever. So they gave me a job, like just taking notes on that show. And I moved up pretty quickly to camera operating on that show within a year. And
was that something you were interested in from the beginning?
Yeah, like getting into camera, I guess, like that I pretty quickly found as my focus in school. I really liked the camera side of it. I liked editing as well, but I wanted to be out in the real world a lot. I wanted to go places. I wanted to like see things, right. and actually like be physically on location. That was a big draw for me, and camera was like felt like the best place to be. So on Gold Rush, they had like what was like a cherry picker, and they would let us just kind of use that with so you put a tripod on a slow moving, I don't know how to explain it, like a genie lift. And I would do these like slow moving kind of moves and arcs around the different pieces of machinery as they're working. And that was like my favorite thing to do. I just got obsessed with it. When everybody else kind of let that go, like that for me was like, I thought it was really like an interesting vantage point that was just working and made for different footage. And it was kind of at that point that I was really experimenting with that stuff that, a friend of mine brought up, well, one of the other guys working on the show, he brought a drone to the show, to fly it. And concurrently, I had been.
That was the first time you saw a drone. That was the first time you saw a drone. Or?
That was the first time I saw like a 4-rotor drone. So this little guy up there was actually what I started on.
Wow.
And like, so you have a single blade helicopter. It behaves very much like a real helicopter, and it's so hard to keep that thing in the sky. It's just like if you've ever flown a Mavic or something, and then you try to fly that, you're going to crash it like instantly. It's so incredibly fly by wire. And so like that was just for fun what I was doing on the side. And then when the drone came up to Gold Rush, like on its first day, it crashed. And it was kind of a big failure.
Did you crash it or someone else crashed
Somebody
it?
else crashed it. So somebody else was flying it. The guy who bought it was flying it, but he had no real experience flying yet. And of course, you're up in the Yukon, up in the Arctic, basically, and you have like all kinds of GPS errors and stuff. So, like it's not, in the early days, it was very difficult to fly up north. So it would flip into like manual mode pretty quickly. And then you have to learn how to fly like that right away, right? Like this thing. So I got into it. I basically convinced the guy who crashed it to go rebuild it. And it was like I had, the show gave us a 2-week trial. They said, you got 2 weeks to sort this out. We're going to be watching like how much money we spend versus how much like screen time ends up. We're going to be doing that calculation. And if that calculation is less than a certain number, then we won't continue. And I just kept going with it on that show for like 6 years after that. So
wow.
That became like a full-time, and ever since then it's been my full-time job. So it went from 2-week trial to like all I've done since.
Wow. So let's break it down here. When your friends repaired the drone, and did he give it to you to start flying it right away, or it was a combination of you two?
No, I was going to be the pilot, and then he would camera operate. So he was trying to do everything himself. He was trying to just single operate, and that's when we decided that no, I'll fly the drone. I'll work on that part of it. You work on the camera side of it, and yeah, it just worked right away. But in the weeks leading up to it, where I knew it was coming, I was on set and I would just like mark out like where I'm going to take off, where I'm going to land, what shots I'm going to do. Like I was I had a big long list of like things I wanted to get done, like perfect shots that I wanted to do.
So you would practice extra hours before the actual footage, and then you would go back and
yeah. I was practicing with my little single blade helicopter. Flying around in these locations, being like, okay, like I'm going to take off here, like just mentally kind of like going through the whole thing. And then, just practicing, so that when it came, it was pretty seamless. And then I went like several years without an incident, which was pretty clutch at the beginning, like it's a tough road, especially back then. But like, yeah, it's hard, but it's important to like go incident free for a little bit for sure, if you can.
Yeah, 100%.
Faros, can you take notes of that?
No. Let's not talk about incidents. All right? I don't want to talk about that. We're not here to talk about that today. Maybe later. But I want to talk a little bit more about that specific period. So this was the first time you really implemented drones in your workflow, and then how did it move after this specific show? Because clearly right now you're working on huge blockbuster films, and you're called in for some of the biggest shoots. So how did you climb up that ladder? Because you're definitely not the only drone pilot around. There's other ones, but they typically go for you because of your experience. I want to know how you gained that experience and how you managed to get your name out there, because there's a lot of people, especially when we post on Instagram, who were curious to know how they can actually get their names known in the industry and how they can improve their skills. So I want to know about how you went around doing that. Of course, practicing for many hours is one of them, as you mentioned.
Yeah. It's tricky because it was a different time. When I started, it was really like, it was the very big, I started in 2012 was the first time I started flying for work. And that was a time period that was very, I think it was really advantageous because if I started earlier than that, it's really messy with the, there was no like proper gimbals. There was no proper flight control system that would do everything for you, like a lot of stuff for you. So I kind of jumped in like right around the sweet spot of getting going. So timing was definitely like a huge factor, and I won't deny that. But for me and like my story, how that rolled out was after doing Gold Rush. And when I say doing the Gold Rush show, I mean like I was there from May through November, working 6 days a week, working 12-hour days.
Wow.
Every day. And we were also like flying all over the world. So that show brought us to Guyana, down in the jungles in South America. Went to like Oregon, went to Alaska. It brought us to a lot of different environments, which trained us how to like pack all of our kit up and put it in a box that will arrive safely on the other side. Go through customs, immigration, knowing how to like really take your kit to another country was something that we were lucky enough to like kind of have our hand held through that process. With the show, because they just, they wanted us because we were the kind of the only people doing it, and we were already doing it there. So they just shipped us around to all the different places that they were going. And they really taught us how to do like a carnet, import, export, all of those things I learned on that show. And because I had those skills, when people would kind of graduate from the Gold Rush program, they have a very high turnover. Like they bring in young people and they would like train them up and then kind of spit them out into the world. And those people would end up on other British production company shows that most like British television gets shot like overseas. So it's not like in Canada or the US where most of the stuff is like in America or Canada.
Right.
It's like UK television is all over the world. So like think Bear Grylls and that type of thing. So we did a lot of those types of shows because people knew us from the Gold Rush one, and then they went to the other one, and then they needed, a drone, and there wasn't drones all over the world. So I got to go, my craziest like travel story was going from, I worked in the Arctic, went for 6 weeks up north on a place called Devon Island. You can look it up on a map, and it's like way up there, like further north than the North Pole kind of thing. Like, really. And we're up there filming for like a nature program, and they dropped us off on the ice, and it was me and 3 other people total. On this island that's huge, like bigger than Vancouver, or it's probably about the same, probably a little smaller than Vancouver Island.
But all made up of ice.
All made up of
ice.
And and there's nobody on it, like literally nobody on it.
Wow,
that sounds like the beginning of a horror movie or something. Like sounds like
and the mission objective was to like go and film these ice caves. So we'd go onto this glacier and go like into these ice caves. So we're up there I was up there for I think 5 weeks.
Wow.
And then I came home, and I had 2 days at home before I got on a plane and went for 6 weeks in the Serengeti. Just totally polar opposite, totally different climate, right on the equator, super hot, and like lions and giraffes and elephants running around. It was just,
but that's one hell of an experience.
It was so
right?
wild.
I think
so basically, like, I got these crazy travel jobs, and I just became known pretty quickly as like the guy who could get on a plane, get your gear safely into another country, have proper carnet, import, export, deal with all of that, and have your equipment, and then also deliver really good shots as well. But like so much of drone flying is not just delivering good shots. You can practice all day at delivering good shots, but there's all these other like facets of it that you have to get good at that are like, that's the work part. And so we worked really hard at getting that stuff to work properly. once we had those, like that international sort of reputation, was when I met my wife, who was living in Vancouver, and I decided that, well, you know, if I want to, and it was also the time, so like it was about when the Inspire 1 came out. And I was like, okay, so all of a sudden the sound guy bought one, and you know what I mean? Like he can get good shots too. And like, he's having a good time on these sets. So like, I realized pretty quickly that like drones, for the level of television that I was making, which was like a lot of this, I don't know, like cheaper blue chip sort of stuff for BBC and that type of thing, was going to go to the wayside because it was just going to get paired in with other people's jobs. So I realized the only place for me to go was to go to the top and go to the stuff that was like, you know, right at the top of the industry. And I was like, well, I have the experience now. I have like, you know, this experience with me. So we approached Peacemaker Filmworks in Vancouver, who has they do the arm car thing. So they have like a big SUV with a big crane on the top of it. And which I always,
the coolest looking cars.
Yeah.
Those are the coolest looking cars. You see them, sometimes you see them in
downtown Vancouver. No, you see it all the time running around.
Here, but if anybody's watching from outside of Canada or the US, it's just what you've seen behind the scenes, those cool blacked out cars with the giant arm and the cameras shooting. That's exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like, and to me, that's like the alpha dog of the film world, you know, like I was just like, I want to be a part of that. So I showed them our demo reel one day, and got a call like the next day. And I thought that they would just bring us in every now and then when they wanted to do drone stuff, but they offered to buy our company outright, all of our equipment, our name, our rights, everything, and just have us fold into them, and then have me head up their drone program. And so we went for it, and my very next job was like working on Predator, like 2 weeks into working with them. so then yeah, because basically they already had the big jobs, you know, they were already on these large jobs, and they already had the reputation for them. So when they brought drones to the scene, everybody just trusted that it was going to work. And again, was really important at that time to like,
what sorry, before you even go further, I still want to hear that story. Was it a tough decision for you to do this sort of transfer of something that you've built yourself, even though you know you're going to be working on bigger? So there's the concept of you improving and getting to bigger sort of projects, but at the same time you're going to be folding into Peacemaker. So I just want to know if that was was it a tough decision? Was it an easy decision for you? How did that go?
Well, I've kind of approached my whole career with, you know, do what you love and the money will follow. And so I wanted to have this opportunity. Like I was pretty tired of working on TV shows where it was like, oh, the drone just gets like a little tiny piece of time over here and just get what you get sort of thing. Like just get, you know, just go out and get some cool shots and bring them back. I wanted to work more like, you know, hey, we've set this crazy I wanted a tougher challenge. And so the types of shots that we would do on those big shows, I knew was going to be like high pressure, which is where I thrive. Like I love it. I get really bored really quickly when I'm just on a small shoot, like doing very small stuff. I like the pressure of like, hey, everybody's counting on you to get this shot, and it's going to be the opening shot of the movie, and there's 200 people here.
It's like your world's exploding, and that's when you're like,
yes, give me that drone.
I wanted that, you know, like I wanted to have fun and be a part of these big things, you know. I wanted to like fly through explosions and film car chases and have like this higher budget stuff. And concurrently, I knew like, again, like that just the smaller end of the spectrum was getting diluted. So I think I made the jump at the right time to go to the top end of the stuff. And honestly, like, yeah, part of me wonders like how it would have played out if we just kept doing what we were doing. But it's also about working with the right people. For sure, and like who you're surrounding yourself with. So when we married into the Peacemaker family, it's like we're marrying into royalty. You know, stunt coordinators that have been doing this since the 80s. that have, worked with every big star out there, and they know, like, you just get a chance to absorb and learn so much from these people.
Dude,
Yeah.
Peacemaker is literally one of the coolest companies I've ever seen. You guys, all of you together, when we go to the website, and we recommend every single one of you guys to check their website out, just go to the equipment list and just see all of their equipments. They've got so many different types of cars, trucks, SUVs, all blacked out with different arms. Then they've got motorbikes with cameras attached to them. They got the Kira
2.0.
And if you guys watch Marcus Brownlee's videos, you guys know he uses the Kira arm as well, the robot arm that goes around with the camera. Then they've got all the crazy drones like the Alta 8. The Alta 8, is that the biggest drone that you guys have?
The
one
Alta
with the 8 propellers?
The Alta X is our biggest drone right now. It's been a little while since we did our website, though. So,
okay. I mean, even now, if you call that an outdated website, it's still one of the coolest ones I've been to. It's just crazy, all of the cool equipment you guys have. And I can imagine just going into I believe you guys have a warehouse, or how does it work? What does the location look like?
Yeah, so we have a warehouse that's kind of split into two. So half of it is a big video wall studio, which is currently under construction right now. But the other half is like the toy shop with all the stuff.
Toy shop. I love that name. Me and Faraz, we're thinking like, we want to really plan for our YouTube videos to use some of your equipment in the future. I cannot imagine if we make a video with all this equipment, how crazy that would look like.
Dude, it's so crazy because people always see the movies and sometimes they see the behind the scenes. Not everybody watches the behind the scenes, but when they do, I know people always look at these crazy cars and technologies and they go like, wow, this is crazy. But to hear it all from you, the story of all these drones and all these cars is just so fascinating to us. But just to finish up this story, I want to just wrap it up towards the end there. You mentioned when you married to the family of Peacemaker, how many years ago was that?
We sold our company to them in 2017.
2017, and then you said you worked with them immediately after on Predator, and then after that it became all of these bigger projects like Deadpool 2, Sonic, and Ghostbusters. All of that is afterwards, is that right?
Yeah. So basically, I had worked on like one feature film before that for a different company, but it was just sort of a because they wrecked their stuff and needed a little backup. So I came in for one feature film before that, and I had one little piece of the action. But yeah, like basically, Predator was one of my first big jobs, and one of my first shots on that movie actually was like a shot that never made the movie, but it's in my Instagram. Of like we sat around for a week waiting for the weather to be good, to be perfect, and then they set off the biggest explosion that I've ever seen to date. Still, and it was this massive. I think it was like 50 gallons of fuel going at once, and the drone was so close to it, like that you can see the shadow of the drone in the explosion. And it gets like full frame basically. And then I peel out of there because I was going to hit it if I stuck around. So I got out of there before it, totally enveloped the drone. But everybody like back at Video Village was watching the monitor and they were like, oh, it's gone. Like it's gone.
Yeah, the drone's out.
The drone is out.
Yeah. And then they looked up at the drone and they're like, where is it? Like, oh my God, like what's happening? And it was, so, and then, of course, like being a big budget feature, it's like, that whole scene got cut because it was supposed to be at night. So then they like rewrote it and we reshot something different at night.
Oh no.
Oh man.
But
now you have so many drone in your disposal. When someone comes to you or a feature film comes to you and they give you a shot that you guys need to shoot, how do you choose the right drone? Because now there are, you guys have so many.
The answer used to be really simple about 3 weeks ago until the Inspire 3 came out. The Inspire 3 is pretty awesome, I gotta say. It's been taking a lot of.
You have one, right?
Pardon?
Do you have one? Do you have one?
Yeah, we got two.
Inspire 3.
But they're
we got two. Okay.
Well, two in the drone industry. You know what? Like I said this from the get go. Like 2 is 1 and 1 is none. So, you know.
Oh, so we have none.
Yeah, we
We
technically
have
have no drones right now.
Yeah, yeah. If you go out with one on a big job, like just don't go crying to anybody when you have a technical and you can't do your job. So we double up on everything all the time.
Oh wow.
And but yeah, like I love flying the bigger birds. Like the Alta X is pretty awesome. It has a huge payload. It's very responsive. The way that it flies is very. It feels like you're actually flying. It's kind of a harder thing to describe unless you fly a lot. But basically, on DJI drones, when you're flying forward, and then you pull up to stop. When you hit the brakes and you go forward, it'll stay at the same level, which means that your stopping distance is different depending on how fast, depending on all the factors of everything that's going on. So how long it takes to stop is a number that changes. Where with the Alta X, if I'm cruising like this and I go for a full brake, it'll actually rise. So you can kind of
okay.
And like you can stop on a hairpin and you can go up on a hairpin. So like when you're following behind a car and it goes and explodes on the Inspire, when you stop going into that, like you don't know how far that is away. So it's like it goes and then you stop, and because of that you have to like give more room. You can't get as close.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where with the bigger drone, it goes and I can, rise up,
Stop and
like,
go up.
jump over it, sort of thing.
So more precision with the Alta in general.
Yeah, still more precision with the Alta. However, the Inspire 3 is really good with the FPV. It's got really good FPV. It goes forever. The camera controls have smoothed out. A lot of the things that I used to hate about the Inspire, like it used to kind of bounce a lot when you were low to the ground. It had a really hard time like holding its altitude. They've fixed like all of those problems. So it's a tough sell now to get away from the Inspire 3, if I'm being totally honest. It's hard to like justify. The only places where I go back now to the bigger drone, and it sucks to say this because I do love like what the guys at FreeFly have made. It was like an incredible machine that they came out with, but the only real reason to use it now is because you have certain lenses that you're trying to match. You're trying to match a lens, then you got to use the bigger one. Or if you want to fly in the rain, because it's totally waterproof and it has a rain spinner on it, so you can actually like fly and get shots in the rain where you can't with the Inspire. And
a lot of movies, I assume. Sorry to interrupt. There's a lot of movies I assume that will have different weather effects, so you might have to use that. And the rain spinner, how does that work? Because I remember we watched a video, but I think people would appreciate it. How does the rain stopper work?
Yeah,
the spinner.
Yeah, so it's basically just a spinning piece of glass in front of the lens that you put in a filter tray. So like you have your matte box where you would put in your ND, your different, and instead of an ND, you put in like this special one that is like a spinning piece of glass, and it spins really fast so that when the water hits it comes off. The Inspire 3, while it does have like water resistant properties to it, it doesn't have anything to protect the lens from spinning like from water. So the minute that it's even misting just a little bit, the shot's over because you can't see anything.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. So then you would say that Alta was usually your go-to, especially when you want more precision and if you want to have specific lenses. But now that's slowly becoming a different choice because the Inspire 3 is really great. Is there any other drones that you guys have in your pocket that you guys use a lot?
Yeah, I mean, so we have all kinds of different FPV drones. Again, right. we have a really good FPV drone with a gimbal on it. But again, like the Inspire 3, like sort of negates that because it can do almost everything and then way more than that thing can. So like that, there's only a couple reasons to fly that now.
Right.
So it really has taken the lion's share of, drone shots. I mean, we have like 30 or something ridiculous drones. Like, there's other drones that we have. So the Alta 8 that you mentioned earlier is really good if you want to do hand catch. So that would still be the drone that I would use if I was catching a drone, because it's lighter than the X and it has the handles, and it's actually the most precise drone that we have in the fleet. It's very super smooth, like super smooth. So if you're gonna try,
because when you say precise, we saw a video of you using the Alta 8, I believe, in Abu Dhabi indoors.
Yeah.
In I believe that was a hotel. So flying a drone indoors is already kind of stressful for us. But you had that, and it's a giant.
And there were
drone.
people walking around it, right?
I mean, the actors, yeah, but it was just really cool to see that. So that's why you chose that drone specifically, because it's so precise for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that was I doing that scene again. I don't know if I would use that one or if I would use the X. But again, that's a big movie that's going to demand, like a certain type of lens. I think it was called The Misfits, and it was Pierce Brosnan was starring in it, so he was in the room there too.
Wow. That's awesome.
But yeah, like like that drone is really, really super precise. But that was before the X came out. So I don't know what I would use in that one, but where I like the 8 is for hand catching now, basically. That's all I use it for. So where we have the ring on it, like the movie ring, and then we'll fly in to a shot and get a big wide establisher, and then I'll land that in somebody's hands who takes it over, and then that becomes like a movie shot.
Oh, so you just continue into a different.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait a minute. You land in the ring?
Yeah.
You land the drone in the ring?
No. The ring is on the drone. So instead of landing,
okay. You land and someone will catch it.
Yeah, so we'll get rid of the landing gear, and then we have the ring, and then somebody catches it, and then somebody will sometimes, depending on the shot and what the shot's demands are, like sometimes I'll have 2 other guys go and take the top off. So then you've got just the movie, and it becomes a movie shot real fast.
That is all the crazy shots we see in movies where it's just super smooth, is flying, and it becomes sort of a different shot. That's the kind of stuff that you're talking about. There's another crazy one we saw on your Instagram where you were on the water and you were holding a drone, and the lens, the camera was underwater, and you sort of pulled it up out of the water, and then it started flying. Can you talk about that? Because I've never seen that shit before.
Did you plan that shot, or they ask you to do this shot, or that was just a fun project?
That was a DP named Russell. Trying to remember his last name, but it was a fantastic DP who actually died like a really unfortunate way.
I'm so sorry to hear.
Yeah,
that.
recently, but he was great. And yeah, it was their request. Was like, he's like, I've always wanted to do a drone shot that starts underwater, and I was like, okay, we'll use a GoPro to start and see where it goes. But yeah, it was that was a cool shot for sure. And
was it in a movie, or was it for a movie, or was it a TV show, or
it was a Royal Caribbean commercial?
Okay.
Oh yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Was that the craziest shot you've done? What is the craziest shot that you've ever done?
Oh God.
Something that must have made you super stressed, I guess, when you were shooting it.
Super
in a
stressed
good
or
way.
super excited?
That explosion
and excited.
was definitely, that big explosion shot was definitely a stressful one. But I think probably the most stressful experience that I had was on Deadpool 2 on the rooftop with it was just me and Ryan Reynolds. He insisted on it being him, even though he's wearing the mask, because it's one of the first shots in the movie. And they lit up like 6 city blocks for the shot, so all of the buildings around it are all lit up. And the shot was to go like from really far away, like a block and a half away, fly in to that rooftop, and then kind of slowly just butter into him sitting there on a chair, flipping a playing card, and the seagulls were horrible.
Oh my God, I know about that. Please continue.
Yeah, so the seagulls were not a fan of what we were doing. They were nesting on that roof, and it was us just kind of figuring all this out at the time. But basically, like, you know, like the drone was getting dive bombed and scratched, and like the batteries actually got scratched up on the top of the drone because the seagulls would come and grab it, and they were like shitting all over it, so there's poo all over the drone. And,
Oh my god.
it was so stressful, but like, you know, Ryan Reynolds was up there, and he was like, he was really cool about it. He was like, because I went to him, I was like, dude, I honestly, like, there's a genuine element of danger here. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. These birds are doing like unpredictable things. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. And he's like, I'll do whatever it takes for the movie, man. Like whatever we got to do. Like, I care about the movie so much. Like, I will do anything. And I was like, well, because like there's a chance I might hit a seagull, you know, along the way. And he's like, I don't care. I'll eat a baby seagull if that's what it takes. And then the DP too. I remember the DP just being like, "Well, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Like the drone's gonna fall out of the sky, hits the ground, whatever. Who cares?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Okay.
It's like a $200,000 drone going.
What drone was it you guys were using?
We were using the Alta 8, but we had Hawk anamorphic lenses on it, which are like 60 Gs each.
Oh my god.
And
how? What was the shot? Was you had to fly the drone from 6 blocks away, all the way come down to Ryan Reynolds sitting on the rooftop,
Flipping the cards,
and just stop there.
yeah,
right?
it wasn't quite like they had 6 blocks lit up, but it was about a block and a half flying in, and then they made like a little fake air conditioning unit that I'm like sitting in for the shot, so that I can see. So I'm looking through like tiny little cracks too, right? Like.
Dude, you're like a freaking
like,
sniper, bro. Like a freaking sniper, literally.
Yeah. So
you were on that same rooftop.
Pardon?
You were on that same rooftop with Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, so it's just me and him up there. Yeah. And then the camera operator's in the building and like further away, you know?
Where was this, by the way? Was it in Vancouver?
Yeah, it was in Vancouver. It was, I want to say like Howe and Pender or something.
Oh, just downtown?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And it's
if tomorrow
it's on my Instagram, you can check it out. Like I think I posted a shot of it in there. But yeah, that was probably the most stressed I had been, because it was like still pretty early in my career, and it was like, you know, just so much pressure to do this. And it was like, this shot was important, like very important for the movie. It's like, you know, not the opening shot, but it was like right near the beginning of the film. And it's like the first time you see Deadpool, right? Like, so
yeah,
it had to be cool. It had to work, you know?
How many shots how many retake you guys did? Was it like a one take, or
no? We were there for a little while. We probably got it after the second or third one, but on these big movies, they don't care. They'll just do it like 50 times, you know? So,
oh, really?
Probably did it like 30 times or something. Yeah.
Wow.
They'll just do it and then so that it's perfect, you know? They've got the time, so.
And how do you go around planning the shots? So how much of the shots, this Deadpool one specifically, and other shots, how much of it is your ideas? How much of it is it the director's ideas, or is it like a perfect chemistry where you guys go back and forth? You can give your advice on how the shot should look, because at the end of the day, you're still the expert in terms of piloting the drone, but they might be the guy who decides on the overall composition of what they want the shot to look like, right?
And specifically, like going from point A to point B, is it something that you dictate, or no, the director will be like, I want the camera to move this angle, I want you to be here.
Yeah,
how would that work?
So Jonathan Sella was the DP on that job, and he's one of the very few DPs that I've worked with actually that was very specific about exactly what he wanted, down to the point where he had already, because I, you know, when I went on the scout, I was like, well, I'm gonna have to be in the shot, you know, and he's like, oh yeah, I already thought of that. I built you I had a air conditioning unit built. You're gonna stand inside of it. And I was like, wow, okay. Like he already knew. Where normally that's not the case, you know? So for that shot, it was very much like they knew exactly what they wanted. They had a board and it had to match exactly. A lot of the time on sets now, it depends on the budget. So if it's a huge budget, then you just do as they say, and you know, unless it's going to be putting the drone in compromise. But generally what I'll do is I'll do exactly what they say as good as I can to prove to the director and the DP that like I can do exactly what you say. But I will also offer something up after that. We call it auditioning. So, you know, we'll do their shot, and then I'll ask them. And this is where it's good to have the comms too, because it's a closed loop, right? Like it's a very private conversation. So we'll give the director or the DP a set of comms, and he's on our channel with us, so he's hearing everything that we're going through and what we're doing. And then, you know, I'll suggest like, hey, can I audition something that I think will work? And once you have that trust of them knowing A, that you can do like the good stuff that they're asking for, but also B, that you're not going to like out them in front of everybody and be like, I got a better shot than you. You know what I mean? Most people,
unless you don't want to get a job anymore at their at these shoots.
So most directors and DPs will, if you're on like a private line with them, will let you do that. But you get one shot at that one. That's gonna be a good one, right? So you do that one, and then, you know, like, and then they basically just get to pretend like it's their idea after that, and then you move on. But usually the big movies, they know exactly what they want. You're in there for a 2-second piece, and that's it, you know. And it's to be honest, like a lot of the stuff I do on the bigger movies, Deadpool was an exception to that, but a lot of the bigger movies are very safe with their drone flying, because they don't want to spend as long as they could on it, you know. They want to get this over with. So it's like, and it's usually like a big stunt or something that's going on too. So it's a pretty so they'll have like one shot that they want to do. But it's usually like kind of high, kind of wide, kind of boring a little bit.
And it's expensive as well. Every single second spent on set, right? There's so many people involved. So I can imagine only the amount of stress that is on your shoulders, because every single time you have to take an extra shot, that's just the entire crew that has to wait and perform whatever they had to perform. And sometimes these stunts or, you know, explosions maybe can only happen one time, which is that's when it gets, I imagine, crazier. I want to talk about, since you said you use the Alta, we saw as well the backpack that you have. So if you guys have ever played the game Death Stranding, it looks exactly the same. You got a backpack, you got the two sort of antennas on, not two, well, there's multiple, at least that's what it looks like. And then you got the glasses. Can you explain how they work and what they do essentially?
Yeah, so I was trying to solve a problem that the Inspire 3 solves. But this was before the Inspire 3. And what I wanted to do was have FPV and line of sight, and be able to see the main camera as well. Because it's really important to have kind of all three of those things. So if you've got a dual operator setup where there's, you know, me flying the drone and, you know, a camera operator operating the camera, if you only have the FPV view, then you don't know exactly what you're getting on the camera, and it's very hard to figure out exactly how far away you should be from something. Also, you can't fly FPV backwards safely with a $200,000 package. So like, you know, like as you're like, if you want to, you know, drop down and land on the front of a car where you get a front 3/4 angle of a car and you're coming from behind it, and then you want to drop in and you want to have something like this, a move like this happen, right? You've got to have FPV, but you also have to have the main camera so that you can figure out, okay, and I'm where I need to be. And then you're flying FPV, you're looking forward, you're not even looking at the car, because you're looking where you're flying. But there's another one pointing backwards, and you have your little like kind of rear view camera in there. So in my goggle feed, what I have is FPV and main camera. And then that goggle feed is not like a goggle feed. They're translucent glasses you can see through that are like rear projected little video screens on like ultra bright little video screens projected onto the glasses. So then I can like look above the glasses and like make sure that I can see the drone at all times as well. And then I can glance and get into this kind of double mode.
Okay. Wait, hold on. You're making this sound simple, but you're fucking
I have
looking
a
at
question.
three things at the same time.
Very important. Are you a gamer?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. I definitely.
You should be an amazing gamer. Like the things that are.
Three different things at the same time. Looking at the drone, looking at the FPV, and looking at the camera at the same time while piloting. How the fuck do you manage?
Patrick, can we go out one time and we watch you doing all of this?
Yeah, we need to watch you. We need to literally see you in action.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my god.
So basically, like, the way I like to think about it, because it sounds like a lot. It definitely sounds like a lot. But I remember, like, in my first week of flying drones, I remember being like, that's what I want. I need to have, like, these are the elements I need to have. I need to be able to see the drone at all times, because you can't really put the goggles on. Because if there's a seagull or something, or like, you know, like some other like factor that you have that you can't see in your FPV feed that could be a danger, you need to be able to identify that, right? So first and foremost, line of sight. Second, most important is having the camera feed, because then you know like what you're doing. Some people put it down on their remote, but I find it distracting to go between the remote and up and down.
Yeah.
I feel like when you do that, you end up like committing fully to the screen down below, and you lose. And if you lose that for like even, you know, 5 seconds, when you look back up, if the drone's far away, like you can lose it. It very quickly can go behind a tree or something, or like you don't know exactly.
There you go. That's exactly what happened to me. I lost the drone went inside the tree.
You were flying a DJI Mini Pro 3 and you went to a tree.
I didn't have the line of sight. Okay, I was looking down.
You were standing under the
I
drone.
need the backpack. I'm telling you.
The drone was just right above your head. So 2 days ago, let me tell Patrick what happened. 2 days ago, we went to Grandman Island.
Yeah.
And you know, in Grandman Island, they have the oldest crane in Metro Vancouver. You know, the small one near a parking lot.
Okay.
And we started recording that crane, and it was 20 minutes in. I was checking my phone. Faraz came to me and said, the drone is stuck in the tree. We lost the drone.
No, we put it on sport mode, which has no obstacle avoidance, and then I wasn't aware of the speed that it's faster, and it stops slower as well. Exactly what you were describing earlier about how it stops is a different time, especially on sport mode compared to the normal mode. And so I just wanted to go backwards a little bit to take a wider photo, and then boom, it went inside the tree. I was like, okay,
well, exactly.
But we managed to recover it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
but we get your point.
So like when you're, you know, like if you're flying an FPV race drone, you're never really going to fly backwards unless like you're doing some crazy trick, and you're probably going to smash it. You know, like you're always looking where you're going. And that's one of the things that scares me the most with Mavic pilots when they're out there, is that like, you know, you get lost in that image and you just want to make that image, but you don't know what's behind you. If you're not looking behind you, you don't know what's behind you. So this was kind of aiming to solve that problem basically, which was just so that the FPV camera is looking where the drone is going all the time, and that's preventing it from hitting stuff, which is pretty important. And but then you also have your framing there.
So that was a custom built backpack?
Yeah,
you guys
I
made it
was the
yourself?
first person to make that. There's a few of them out there now, but that was
Do you still have
years
it?
of work. Yeah, I still use it. Yeah.
You still use it.
Yeah.
And when you say the Inspire 3 solves that issue, what issue were you specifically talking
So
about?
the Inspire 3 has FPV, like a really good OcuSync 3 FPV camera that's on a gimbal that you can like tilt up and down, so you can like see directly below you, and then also like up forward where you're going. And then and then in the bottom corner it has the ear video screen as well. And then you can like tap a button to make that bigger or smaller, however big or small you want it to be. And then you can also flip them so that it's like your FPV is small but your main is big. And it basically solves the problem. It does what I was trying to do. I wish it was in glasses for sure. I actually like would love to try to get like an FPV goggles working on that, because
Does it not right now?
I haven't seen it done. In theory, it
Okay.
should be possible because you can do it on like the Mavic 3, and it's also the OcuSync 3.
Yeah.
So in theory, it's possible, but nobody has yet to figure that one out. If you guys want to crack that one, I'm into it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We're the experts here. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Just one thing I wanted to ask, since we're on the topic, if I were to start, using a drone, I think me and Farah were both interested because we got the DJI Mini Pro 3 and we use it mostly for doing nerfs and photogrammetry, but I guess not specifically for this use case, but generally someone who wants to follow in your footsteps, go into film, cinema, and all that. What would you recommend be the starting point for people if they're trying to get a drone for themselves? What do you think is the best drone to start with right now in order to learn how to pilot and in order to get the greatest shots?
Yeah, I mean, I think that answer for me has changed over time, because like it's shifted with technology over time. I used to say the best thing that you can do is get into FPV, and like building your own FPV drones, because like you'll get like everything, all of the like necessary skills that of like troubleshooting are going to come from FPV. So like you're actually, and it's different from like when I started. But if you know nobody in the industry and you're trying to break into the industry and you're trying to be useful to another drone company, and then like work your way up through the ranks with another drone company, then the most useful thing that you can do is FPV, and editing. So like, cause most drone companies don't have like any of that side of it. So if you know how to edit, and then you know how to make good FPV videos, and you know how to like, fix stuff when it goes wrong, then that's going to be a way better combo for you to roll in as a tech for somebody. And then from there, you just gain your trust, and you get your time, and you get, your hours up to get a shot like at an Inspire job. And then, you kind of slowly work your way through the ranks and become a heavy lift pilot. But it is definitely like, there's not a lot of jobs. There's three main companies in Vancouver that do all the work, and at those companies we have 2 teams, and then there's 2, maybe 3 at one of the other companies, and then there's 1 team at the other company. So it's not, and between us we pretty much do everything. So it's not like there's a ton of heavy lift drone pilots out there, and it's also tough because these guys want the like insurance package of somebody who's, like been doing it for a long time. So it's hard to break the market for sure. Somebody did try a little while ago by just like, they were like really rich and they just bought all the stuff. And they had everything. They had a really nice Sprinter with 2 Alta X's and like all the stuff. But like they never got jobs because people just didn't, like it's a tough market to break into. But what I would say is like probably still focus on FPV, mainly because it's like a super fun hobby. There's nothing quite like it when you're flying FPV for real. It is like you are flying, like your brain leaves your body and goes there. So like as a hobby, it's totally worth doing. It's like something that's super fun, and you'll learn a ton along the way. But yeah, like drone piloting is not just about making really good drone shots. Like it really isn't like most of the job. I'd say most of my job is like more than 50% of my job is talking to people, communicating ideas properly, having a really good way of getting your thoughts through without dominating somebody else's or putting down. Like there's a lot of egos that you have to work with. I know I've got my own too, like, but it's a delicate balancing act of like going in with the right attitude, to be able to get the best shot for what they're trying to do. And the more that you edit, the more that you understand what the best shot is that's actually going to work for the sequence. So editing is definitely going to be like a helpful skill set along the way. And yeah, just like really having a good, like don't be scared of people on set, like go get some time on set just as a PA, as whatever, like go work in lighting or whatever, like understand the dynamics of what's at play on set, so that when you do get that chance and you do come in as a drone tech, you're not going and asking the director like where to go or something, like you need to know like all the weird little intricacies of film, if you want to be like flying the heavy lift stuff. But yeah.
Okay, Patrick, we have talked about all the different skills that you need, but another important aspect is regulation and certificate. And as you are someone who traveled all around the world, doing drone shots, is there any single source when you look into, if someone asked you tomorrow that, hey, can you come to France and can you shoot this shot for me? Where do you go to find out whether, do I need a certificate if I need to fly in France? Even not the heaviest drone, but even your small drones, or even like we have hard time even figuring out in downtown Vancouver, can we fly in this area? Is it safe? Where do you figure those things out actually?
Yeah, it's tough. within Canada, the Navdrone app is pretty good at like, you know, like if you get your license properly and then you really learn how to use the Navdrone app properly, you can fly anywhere. It just, you know, like you just have to give it enough time. Like you could fly right in over Stanley Park if you want, but you have to like, you know, go through the process. And you'll get denied at a certain altitude, so you have to lower the altitude to be like something that works. And sooner or later, they kind of have to give it to you. So within Canada, like definitely they've streamlined the process, and in the States, it's very similar as well. They have an app that is really good for all that stuff. In other countries, it gets a little trickier. I only really work in like the third world now for drone stuff, like in other countries other than Canada and the US. So like I'm not going to be working in France probably because there's really good companies over there. There's other really good options. Europe has its own aviation authority. In regards to like whether or not there's one good single source for that information, probably just like ChatGPT with browsing.
That's true. That's actually
like,
very true.
I haven't found the exact, you know, like I haven't really needed to go down that resource. Like, and when I was doing it before, that wasn't really like the way that I would do it is like, okay, well, production trusts me to get the stuff in and out of the country and to do everything that I need to do. Well, part of that step is I need to talk to the local fixer like right away. So every production is going to have a local person on the ground who's helping with all that stuff. And you basically contact them and go through that process of starting to import export is a huge part of it, especially with the US.
That makes sense. No, I agree with you. I think the different locations, of course, have different platforms that you can use to find out about all of this stuff. I want to ask one thing about other pilots. So clearly you're one of the biggest experts in the field based on the work that you've done and based on the experience that you have. Who is your favorite pilot?
Do you have one?
Yeah, I do. Trent Palmer. Trent Palmer, to me, he was doing this like before I was doing it, and he's always been an inspiration for me. He was doing it with the single blade helicopters, like with big gas motor ones, flying, doing some crazy stuff. And his demo reel back in like 2013 was like insane. And I definitely like Trent Palmer and Tab Furchow, who's the guy that owns Free Fly, are like the early day pioneer people that had the attitude and the type of filming that I like to bring to set, which is, get as close as you can to the action without crashing, and try to make it as exciting as possible. And those two guys.
And thank you for letting us know the names, because I wanted to ask that question for anybody who would want to go and look them up and find out more about what they do and their work, because they could potentially get inspired, not just from you, but also them. Where do you see the future of this industry? So when we went to ChatGPT and looked up some of the reasons why people are using, drones, especially because of the safety reasons. Now you can have drones go into explosions, just like you mentioned, go close to explosions where you can't physically take a person there, right? You have safety, you have accessibility, you have flexibility, and just creating unique shots. Where do you see the future of drones? Because you were there from almost the early days. You've seen the growth. You've seen all these crazy technologies being added with Inspire 3 coming around now, with, auto track, all these cool things. Where do you see all of this going over the next few years?
It's probably going the way of like, crane. It's more and more going the way of just like a crane, which is like on almost every show. They have a certain budget that they use for the crane. It's always there. Little, where it's just a little more kind of. It's just used more and more often. But the stuff that I'm getting excited about in terms of like shots that are coming out, because it's been a little bit stagnant for a while. The type of shots that I'm getting, that, everybody's getting at this level is like, okay, everybody's playing chicken with each other to get up to the level of like where you're now all of a sudden it's, Shaun White doing triple cork, whatever, crazy flips, and you're at that level of like where you push it any harder, you're gonna either kill somebody or like you're gonna like blow up the drone or something. So you have to pull it back a little bit, and everybody's sort of found that limit, and now there's just more and more people getting to that line, and not really going past it. So in terms of like that type of thing, I think we've kind of plateaued. The stuff that I'm excited about is automation, just using computers more and more to help fly.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Patrick, we have a section at our podcast where we ask the guest, who's you, the question that people have asked us on our social media. So we have posted a story and people have been asking a few questions. Do you mind we go to a rapid fire round of asking all
We've
the
sort of covered some of these, but it's more of a rapid fire so you can just answer in the quickest way possible in a way.
So Kevin was asking, how involved are you on the Scout when you go for a feature film?
Yeah, we always go on a Scout. We always have like a day ahead of time. That's usually about like 4 or 5 days before the shoot. I'll go out, I get paid for a half day, and they tell me what they want to do, and I tell them whether or not we're using the right equipment, or like it's a chance to make changes to the gear if it needs to. And I also figure out where I'm going to fly from, and then I take that information, put it into the Navdrone app, and get permission to fly where we're going to be flying.
So do you fly on the Scout day as well? Like, do you fly one round, or no? That's just for checking out and coming back.
Okay. Karan, so I guess this is just a continuation and a conclusion to the topic earlier. Karan is asking, do you think that this is the end of the heavy lift era after the release of Inspire 3?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna. I'm predicting it taking about 80% of our work. When heavy lift used to be like the inverse. So.
There's another one from Kevin that says the skills to become a top drone operator. You actually answered this perfectly earlier on, that you said it's not just about piloting a drone and getting good shots. It's also about the soft skills, which is communicating with people. Is there anything else that comes into mind to answer Kevin's question, or would those two be the pillars of being a good a pilot like yourself?
Yeah, it really, like, honestly, I can't stress the communication angle of it. It just, having your head around how people work, where people have their feelings and stuff with regards to shots, and how to delicately walk that line of like trying to gently let somebody know that their idea isn't really going to work, but this one might be better. Finding a way there is the biggest challenge on set, because you'll have like I see really talented drone pilots come up and then just get thwarted like right at that. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think that's true for almost any jobs where you're working with a big group of people. You need to be able to communicate, and that's usually one of the main skills of being able to go up there that a lot of people miss out on. And that makes the difference between the best and just average and mediocre. Farad, do you want to?
We have another question. What makes you confident to fly in forest or any other tight spaces?
Having a tech that really, I work with the tech. Alex Jordan is the guy that I work with all the time. He's a really good race drone pilot. He's a great pilot in his own right as well. And I think that working with the tech that pilots is a huge part of it, because I'll put him at a different angle to me, where he gets a side angle of where the drone is, and we'll identify the run beforehand, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going in, and I'm going to stop before I get to those trees over there. And he'll let me know if I'm stopping a little too late, a little too early, those types of things. And again, on the comms, he's in real time communicating exactly where we're going. That's what gives me the confidence to be in there.
I love that. Patrick, thank you so much. We've had a blast talking to you. And honestly, I think the next thing I would love to do one day is plan it out so that we can see everything you just mentioned in action, and just show people potentially shooting it so that people can see. Again, up until then, when we make that happen, for anybody who wants to check out his work in real time, go to his Instagram page. I think, Patrick, would that be the best place to check out some of the work you've done?
Yeah, I usually put, I've been kind of lazy lately, but yeah, Instagram is sort of where I put most of my stuff for sure.
perfect. So we'll link them all down in the comment section so you guys can check them out. There's loads of videos for you guys to see, and potentially a lot of things you didn't know about how these film shots are done. You get to see it on Patrick's Instagram. Thank you so much again for your time, and for everybody watching, we'll be back again next week with another guest. So make sure you guys stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time. Ciao.
Thanks, everybody.